when the webinar begins. The control panel can be minimized or expanded by clicking on the horizontal double arrow button in the upper left corner. Minimizing the panel allows a better view of the presentation. Take a moment to practice. There are a few features of that control panel that you should know about. First, be familiar with the Raise Your Hand button. This button is located along the left side of the control panel. It allows you to virtually raise your hand when you have a question, or if you want to respond to a question being asked by the presenter. Click this button to raise your hand now. Clicking again on that same button will lower your hand. Another important feature of the control panel is the Questions pane. To submit a question, type it into the question box. These may be questions related to the presentation or technical questions related to the GoToWebinar system. You may also be asked by the presenter to type your ideas or responses here as part of an exercise during the webinar. Please feel free to type questions at any time. These will be monitored, and we will respond quickly if we see something that shouldn't wait until the question and answer period, such as making a clarification. During the webinar, you may be asked to respond to a polling question or survey. Please take the time to participate as your input and ideas are valuable to the group. Be sure to stay attentive and to interact as much as possible during this webinar. The quality of your experience depends on your attention and participation. Try to avoid the distractions of responding to email, checking Facebook, instant messaging, or working on other tasks at your computer. If you need to step away for a moment, please do not close the GoToWebinar window, as you will be required to log in again if you wish to rejoin the session. If you experience problems with the audio, one possible solution is to use the conference call number and listen to the presentation using your phone. Click the Use Telephone button option, in the window pane of your control panel to view the conference call number. This webinar is being recorded, and the online archive will be available to view on the CAPA website in approximately 2 weeks. Are there any questions? In order to get to know you a little better, we would like to ask you a few questions. And please respond in the question box for us. Are you an active or an alum? If you hold an office, what is it? And what chapter do you represent? We've got some presidents here, Barb. We've got people from Canada. We've got Vice President of Standards. We have a Marshall Advisor. We have an alum who's in a CCA. We have risk management. We have a treasurer. This is a very great representation of everything. This is really nice. Thank you guys for taking time out of your busy lives to attend this evening. And now I'm going to hand the virtual microphone over to Barb so she can start her presentation this evening.
Thank you very much, Suzanne, and welcome everyone. As she transitions over, do you see my screen yet, Suzanne and team?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'm going to put it then into View Slideshow. Again, thank you so much for sharing a part of your evening to continue to learn and grow continuously in CAPA by attending this webinar. Yet again, my name is Barb Gettleman, and I am your presenter this evening, and I have my undergraduate experience at Untitled Chapter at Syracuse University. Tonight, we are going to cover the following areas: the purpose of formal chapter meetings in your infrastructure and operations as a chapter, the setting and properties of formal chapter meetings, as well as appropriate dress for formal chapter meetings. Also, what is the procedure? How do we set up and execute these types of important and vital meetings. How to conduct the meetings during the new member program, which I know is a question that many of you have, and we will cover that this evening. Also, the importance of incorporating continuous ritual review. Decorum, cell phones, and attentiveness when it comes to the formal chapter meeting structure. And of course, we will conclude with your questions, because that's how we all continue to learn and grow, is from each other. So here we go. Why do Kappa chapters conduct formal chapter meetings? Of course, it's protocol. It affirms our allegiance to Kappa Kappa Gamma. It affirms our allegiance to one another and our shared bonds of sisterhood, and it is our common bond. Also, too, having formal chapter meetings must take place when a budget is presented by your chapter treasurer, finance advisor, and that committee, and the vote of the annual budget for the chapter for the upcoming leadership year. When there's a presentation of the slate of new officers from the nominating committee, and I know many chapters are in the midst of that process, the beginning process for that, when the slate is prepared and ready to be shared with your chapter, of course that happens in a formal chapter meeting setting. The election of officers also takes place only at a formal chapter meeting. And of course, the installation of officers. And a formal chapter meeting should also conclude the last chapter meeting of the academic year. So with that said, the settings and properties. The meeting room is set with a table and 3 chairs. And I'm going to take a step back for just a moment. And I want to refer you to your ritual book, because it outlines verbatim what needs to be set up, and procedures and dress, all in that ritual book. And I want to refer you to pages 3 through 6. And it outlines everything. And the ritual for our opening and closing formal chapter meetings comes from Theta Chapter, University of Missouri, and it was adopted by the convention of 1906. So a table and 3 chairs are in the front of the room. Before we go any further, I would like, Suzanne, for you to help facilitate our first poll question in regards to the 3 officers that are in the front of the room. Take it away.
Okay, hold on just a second here. To the wrong screen. Okay, I'm launching the poll. Which 3 officers are in the front of the meeting room for formal chapter meetings? Please select all that apply. Is it A, VP Organization, New Member Chairman, and the Marshal? Is it B, Recording Secretary, Chapter President, and Marshal? C, VP Standards, VP Academic Excellence, and the Chapter President? D, Marshal, Recording Secretary, and VP Standards? Or E, New Member Chairman, Recording Secretary, and Marshal? Well, Barb?
Yes, ma'am?
We have let's see. We've got 69% who have voted. Come on, folks. I can see. We have some people out there who are sitting on their hands, I think.
And that's okay, too.
All right. 78% of you have voted, and overwhelmingly, you have answered B, the Recording Secretary, the Chapter President, and the Marshal.
Ding, 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 ding. You have the correct answer, my friends. Well done. 78% of you. A table with 3 chairs. Oh, there's something going on with my PowerPoint that's not moving forward. Huh. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties.
Press Escape, Barb.
Okay. I don't want to leave the webinar, though.
No, you won't. Just press Escape on your PowerPoint.
Okay. You see that? Now I'm going to go back to slideshow.
Okay. Now I'll go back to full show, view slideshow again, and see if that'll help.
Okay. Apologies to everyone. It could be my computer may have frozen. I apologize to everyone. Here we go. The table and 3 chairs. The poll question was executed. 78% of you. Thank you very much. Okay, here we go. My apologies to everyone. Let me go back to full.
You were in full already.
I was, and now it's gone back to that. So let's try this again. It's being temperamental. All right, here we go.
Okay.
So a chair is in rows for members and guests. On the table is placed a pair of single battery operated or electric candlesticks, the book of ritual, the book of devotions and inspirational readings, as well as the minutes book, and a gavel. And if your chapter desires, a Bible may also be placed on that table. So those are the items, and again, this I will reference you to the ritual book on page 3. So the chapter president, recording secretary, and marshal are all attired in blue Oxford robes. All other attendees shall wear their best. So here's a question that I would like to pose to you, and I'd like for you to take a moment to answer in the answer pane. And Suzanne, if you could facilitate some answers that you receive. What does, in your particular chapters, ladies, does wearing your best mean to you and the members of your chapter? Why don't you take 30 seconds right now to answer that question. And as you see answers, Suzanne, please share.
Sure, I will. Folks, I am not getting any questions here. Yeah.
What does wearing your best mean to you and your chapter? And even if you're an alum, think back to your undergraduate active days. What did you ladies wear for formal chapter meetings? Go ahead, Suzanne, if you have any answers to the question.
No, I am not getting anything here.
Okay, that's fine. We will just move right ahead.
Okay.
Many chapters, there's a perception out there that wearing a black dress, it has to be dark attire. Not necessarily. You do not need to wear black when it comes to formal chapter meetings. You can wear pink, you can wear blue, you can wear green, whatever you'd like. You can also wear nice pants or slacks of any color. Absolutely no jeans or workout pants when it comes to your dress and attire for formal chapter meetings. Also remember your badge, of course, and where that black dress may come into play is because of the fireside service, which is prior to initiation. Of course, everyone for that wears black dress. But when it comes to formal chapter meetings, of course you want to look your very best, but don't let color hold you back. And please know, too, that nice slacks and pants are something that you can wear.
I do have some answers here. I just was looking in the wrong place. One of our attendees says they wear business casual attire.
Okay, business casual attire. So share a little bit more about that business casual attire. What does that entail for you and your chapter?
Taylor, if you want to expand on that, that's great. Another person says business attire, something you'd wear to church or to a formal interview.
Excellent.
Another person says business formal. Another person, Taylor actually says a nice dress or pants and a blouse, no leggings or jeans, heels or nice boots or flats.
Absolutely. Taylor, you're right on the money, and the rest of you, too, that Suzanne alluded to in regards to what you shared in your chapters as to your best. Absolutely no jeans or workout pants. In the footwear, it is always nice to make sure that you have a closed-toed shoe as well.
Another person says that they have a chapter tradition of wearing all black formal dresses.
And, you know, if that is a tradition and that is something that your members are comfortable with, that is fine. But please know you do not need to wear all black. We don't want that to hinder or deter anyone or making them feel that they need to go out there and purchase a black dress just for formal chapter meetings. Ladies, thank you. It sounds like so many of you out there are really adhering to the proper dress and attire for formal chapter meetings. Well done. Okay, how to line up. Now, as many of you know, and it's right there in the very bottom of page 3 of the ritual book, at the start, candles are turned on, room lights are out. The president, the recording secretary are standing at their places at the table. The marshal stands inside the closed door to the meeting room. Chapter members form a line outside the door in alphabetical order within their classes of when they were initiated, order of initiation date. Distinguished chapter guests stand at the front of the line. For instance, here is A. A leadership consultant is visiting. Where does she go in regards to the entry line of walking in for formal chapter meeting? She would be in the front. Again, another question, what about advisors? According to their initiation date, say you have somebody who's 1972, someone who's 1986, and someone who's 1995. You would have the 72 and the 86 and the 95. If a leadership consultant is there, then she would go thereafter. And then with your seniors, juniors, sophomores, and so forth. Also, too, what about fraternity visitors and other guests? What if your province director of chapters or regional director of chapters or maybe the fraternity bylaws chairman is there for your formal chapter meeting? Again, ask them when their initiation date was, and you would line up from the most seasoned initiation date all the way down to the most current being towards the end. What about uninitiated members? When do they enter? Like your new members, and many of you have already seen through successful membership recruitments. You are now in the process of your new member program. Some of you may be towards the end and looking towards inspiration period events and activities and initiation in the next few weeks. When do they come in? Well, the answer is right after the admittance of all of the initiated members. But I'm going to back up a little bit. Once everyone is lined up outside of the room, the first person gives the wrap. And out of respect for our secret matter, we will not go into any of our ritual in this webinar because it is being recorded and is going to be uploaded on YouTube. If at the end of this webinar you would like to see the fraternity produce and execute a formal chapter meeting webinar with the secret matter included, let us know at the end of this, and we will confer with fraternity leaders and our fraternity ritual chairman to organize and put one together for you within the next year. Please know that. So the first person in line gives the wrap. The marshal opens the door. Each member enters the formal meeting room, giving the grip and the password to the marshal, who in turn gives the response and admits the member. I also want to talk about, okay, what about those chapters that have 200, 300, even some chapters out there that may have over 400 members? There is one marshal. We can't possibly have everyone enter in one door. It is okay for the super large chapters to have all of the doors open to where you have formal chapter meeting. There could be an auditorium that you utilize, and there's 4 or 5 doors. You can have your marshal and members of the ritual committee at the other doors, giving the grip, receiving our password, and allowing them admission into the formal meeting space. Please know that. So once everyone is admitted, there is a Kappa song of the chapter's choice, which is sung, and there's 2 song choices, and I will refer you to page 4 in the ritual book. When all members have entered, of course, the marshal takes her place at the table with the recording secretary and the chapter president. The song is sung, members are seated, and the president convenes the formal chapter meeting with the wrap and the opening ritual. All ritual and responses should be memorized by the chapter president and the membership. And in the interest of keeping our secret matter thus, I will not go through those opening words that are shared. And then once members have stood and raised their right hands and given that formal secret matter, members are then seated, and an inspirational reading, which may be the value statement, the mission statement, preamble or purpose of our fraternity, or a selection from religious or philosophical writings, poetry, or other literature may be given at this time. The inspirational reading should inspire the serious seeker of finer and nobler values, aligning ideals and actions and reflecting those things that we as Kappas hold so near and dear to our hearts. At the conclusion of the inspirational reading, the room lights are turned on in the formal chapter meeting space, the candles are turned off, and the business meeting begins. So the question, what about uninitiated members? When do they enter? Once those room lights are turned on, the candles are turned off, and the business meeting commences, then those uninitiated members, those new members, are brought into the formal meeting space. In the presence of uninitiated members, the response to roll call is here. Again, not using secret matter. And special words for voting and officers are not used until all uninitiated members are initiated. So with that said, is there any questions at this time about that information that I just relayed? And Suzanne, if you see any questions, do let me know.
There was a question from before, Barb, and I think this had more to do with dress than the procedure itself. This person, Kelly, was asking about what about formal pledging?
Yes, formal pledging is also in the book of ritual. And I'm going to share with you the pledging circle. It is on page 8 of the book of ritual. And active members are attired in dark dress. New members wear light-colored dress. Does that help to answer your question? And please refer to page 8 of the book of ritual. Any other questions at this time? Hearing none,
Yep.
we will move forward. Who does an initiated Kappa greet? What is the proper response? We kind of covered that already, and I apologize that that question should have been earlier in the presentation. She greets the marshal, the grip is given, and our password is given. And then when all members enter, what takes place? We have already covered that. So moving right along, our opening ritual, and that is where the chapter president presides. Roll call. And I know that some of our chapters are extremely large. Please know that for formal chapter, we do call roll. And you can just utilize the last name of the member. And I do know that for informal chapter meetings, and I was at some chapters in the last couple of weeks, that student IDs are used and swiped with a recording secretary being right there with her laptop. But please know for formal chapter meetings that the last name of the member must be called. And that was something that I did verify with our fraternity ritual chairman just this morning. So if there's questions about that, please don't hesitate to contact Suzanne and I. We will share with you our contact information at the end of this webinar, or you can contact the fraternity ritual chairman, Suzanne Vanderhayden, directly about that. Addressing the chair. Again, if there are uninitiated guests who are in the room, you will address the chair as Madam President. The secret matter as far as how we address the chair is not used with uninitiated members. Formal chapter meeting agenda. Once those uninitiated members are escorted and brought into the room, you do want to make sure that you have committee reports, so reports of officers and her committees. If there's any new business, if there's any old business, if there's any part of the agenda that you want to use for the good of the chapter, and then before you utilize the closing ritual, you would need to excuse those uninitiated guests. And then once they exit the meeting room space, you will conclude the business meeting with the closing ritual, which is on page 6 of our Capital Book of Ritual. And it outlines also too the special little service and ceremony that takes place and the special song that takes place to conclude that formal chapter meeting. So please utilize that book of ritual for and as a resource. Again, uninitiated members are excused at the conclusion of the business meeting. And closing ritual we covered. Okay, incorporating ritual review, which the fraternity and all of us leaders in the organization believe is very important. Even when it comes to formal meetings, informal meetings, committee nights, and program nights, please make it fun. Utilize every Monday chapter meeting or whenever your chapter has your meetings to incorporate ritual review. No more than 5 to 10 minutes on a weekly basis. And it can be everything from preparing for your upcoming Founders Day celebrations. I know the fraternity has shared all of its Founders Day materials for this year. It is now uploaded to the CAPA website, so please feel free to utilize www.capa.org, log in, and you will find all kinds of resources as you prepare for October 13th and the very special ceremonies and gatherings that you will have in your chapters and alumni associations for that. Now is the time to talk about what is it that you want to do for Founders Day and how will you be inclusive in incorporating local alumni advisors, house board members, and what have you in this momentous celebration as our 144th year comes into view as an organization. Make ritual reviews fun, interactive. Utilize your marshal, your ritual committee, your marshal advisor, fraternity ritual chairman. In addition, your province directors of chapters, your regional directors of chapters are outstanding resources. You also can rely, like I said earlier, on the CAPA website. The Book of Ritual, too. It doesn't always need to be on protocol when it comes to formal chapter meetings, but you also could review well in advance protocol and who is going to do what when it comes to fireside, your big initiation weekends that are going to be coming up, the white room service, and what have you. Make it interactive and fun. If you have, say, a questionnaire or just ask questions, or those that attend the ritual review, you may want to have taped underneath the seat a $5 gift card to Starbucks or to a yogurt place, ice cream, whatever it is. But make it fun. And if you're not a marshal who's on this webinar and she was unable to attend due to class or other obligations and responsibilities, talk with her about that. Share with her what you learned from tonight's webinar in incorporating that enthusiasm when it comes to making the Book of Ritual come alive for your chapter council and your membership at large. When it comes to formal chapter meeting decorum, cell phones, always within seconds notice. We can check Facebook and YouTube and emails. I would encourage you, if you have something in place already where the marshal and her ritual committee collects cell phones before entry into the formal chapter meeting, I applaud that. But there needs to be some sort of buy-in by all the members that for this special meeting and all chapter meetings, that the cell phone is put aside so that focus and time and talent is given to the chapter and the affirmation and allegiance to why we are CAPAs, which is coming together on a weekly basis for our chapter meetings. And I would like to hear from you all, so feel free to put in those answer panes for Suzanne and I to read. You know, do you have already in practice in your chapters a tried and true measure when it comes to cell phones and ensuring that members are focused in their minds and hearts are truly present when it comes to not only formal chapter meetings, but your other chapter meetings as well throughout and every month. So do share. But I do think it's important that respect is given to one another, to yourself, and to the chapter at large, and those cell phones are not utilized or put away or not even walked in when you go into the formal chapter meeting space. So Suzanne, if you do see any input when it comes to cell phones and what chapters are doing out there currently to alleviate that being an issue, would love to hear it so we can share.
Sure.
Attentiveness, so important when it comes to the formal chapter meetings. And I'm going to back up even further and share with you that when our organization started at October 13th of 1870, all our organization knew were formal chapter meetings. There was no such thing as the first Monday night meeting of the month was a formal chapter meeting, and then the next week was an informal, and the next was committee nights, and the fourth meeting of the month was program nights. That's an evolution that we have seen and grown and morphed with the times with our organization. But all along from 1870 pretty much to the early 1900s, all chapter meetings were formal. And it's respect for self, like I alluded to earlier, for your fellow sisters, for your chapter council leadership, and the organization as a whole, that you show respect throughout those formal chapter meetings, and all meetings, as a matter of fact. So with that, a lot of ground was covered in a short amount of time. What questions do you have of Suzanne and myself at this time? Any and all questions are encouraged. And as you're thinking of those questions, and Suzanne, as those come forward, I wanted to share with you this thing called the new member promise. And seeing that we have uninitiated guests attending formal chapter meetings across our chapters currently, and will again in January and February of 2015 for those chapters who have deferred recruitment, in the new member program presentation guide, which has ideas and is under the new member chairman's resources on the CAPA website. It's a chapter council facilitator's guide. When do the new member promise, when do those new members recite that promise? Please know that the new member chairman with the new members, they can recite that promise prior to entry into the formal chapter meeting, or they can recite it once they all file in the entire sisterhood, new members and the collective chapter can recite it collectively. It is truly up to the chapter to determine that. So if you want your new members to recite that as a new member class prior to entry, that's great. If you want to incorporate that as a chapter as a whole, that is fine too. I think it's really important that if you just decide to have everyone recite that collectively, even those that are initiated sisters in the formal chapter meeting space, we can never be reminded enough collectively of our shared bonds and our values and those standards that we all collectively gave our name and interest to. Also, too, when it comes to the reciting of the closing of the new member promise, which is a very simple one sentence. Again, you can choose to have those uninitiated members recite that in the formal meeting chapter space, or when they are excused before the closing ritual is performed, they can do that as a collective new member class with the new member chairman outside of that space as well. Totally up to you all as self-governing independent chapters of Kappa Kappa Gamma. So with that, Suzanne, do we have any questions?
We don't, Barb. I'm surprised,
ladies,
folks.
I am too. I am too. Well, again, you know, you're very busy people. You have a lot on your plates, and we just thank you so very much for giving of your time and talents to be with us this evening. Once more, my name is Barb Gettleman. You have my email address there. It was an honor and a privilege to be your presenter this evening along with the wonderful producer Suzanne Giffen. Her email address is also there. We thank you very much for sharing of yourself and your valuable time and talents to be with us tonight, but also to continue to want to learn and grow within Kappa, no matter our age and stage. and position within this wonderful fraternity. Be it an advisor, a house board member, an undergraduate active chapter council leader, or a brand new member within this last year, I encourage you to go and know and learn where that book of ritual is and hold it in your hands. This is a book that is not meant solely for the chapter marshal or president, but it is also yours. We all gave our name and interest to uphold and carry it forward in perpetuity. Get to know this book of ritual. Get to know and understand that formal chapter meeting process, pages 3 through 6, and share this webinar experience with your fellow chapter members. And when you look to transition new leadership towards the end of this calendar year and into the beginning of 2015, don't hesitate to utilize this webinar as a resource when it comes to continuing to hone and make best your formal chapter meetings within your chapter. With that said, thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful evening, and continue ever onward and upward, ladies, in all that you do for your chapter, your association, and the fraternity at large. We are better because of you. Thank you.
Thank you to Barb for leading this session, and thank you for your participation this evening. If you have any questions or comments about the topic today, you can email the presenter directly or at any time after we're finished here. If you'd like to become more involved in CAPA's virtual training and webinar programs, we would love to have you join our producer team. Please contact Karen Holmes at KKG headquarters for details. The benefits are excellent. The opportunity to support CAPA's webinar program and a front row seat at a great presentation. As we close the webinar, a survey will open on your screen. You will be prompted to respond to a few evaluation questions. Please take a moment to share your thought on this evening's webinar. Your feedback will also help us shape future webinar training events. If you have any additional questions or comments whatsoever, please send an email to Karen Holmes at kholmes@kkg.org. Thank you again from